Jeremy's playing more Pokemon. But what we do have to talk about is God of War Ragnarok. Now, this is your time to avoid spoilers, not just for, oh, like, I didn't want to know about this. No, no, no. This is it. Jeremy has finished the game, which means that he and I are finally on par with where we're at with what we've experienced with the game. We're going to talk about it now. We've been talking about it for a few weeks on and off. I think this is probably going to be our button on it. This is probably going to be the end of our God of War discussion on Minimap. So we're kind of gonna go for it, which means that this is your don't be here. You don't want to listen to this if you haven't finished the game. Basically, we're going to be talking about a whole number of things, not just like, oh, I can't believe X happened at the end of X, like not just that, but like a whole bunch of random stuff along the way, twists and turns and character motives and developments and stuff that would genuinely spoil your enjoyment of the game, I think, if you heard it early and you plan on playing it. So come back later if you have finished the game. But if you haven't, I strongly recommend, if you are interested in playing these games at all, which I would recommend at least trying before making that decision, maybe don't listen to this bit until you've figured out whether you're ever going to play these games or not, and then maybe play them first. So
it's as succinct as always, Gary.
Thanks, Jeremy.
In our show timings, I'm going to start adding an extra minute just to the coming back from the break.
We always, I'm going to bat for this one. We always add a few minutes of buffer coming in and out of the breaks, and it's for shit like that. It's already in there. Don't you dare add another minute. We're already accommodating for my bullshit. Jeremy, you finished the game.
I finished the game.
I was trying to remember what you were up to last week. And I think you were like...
I got in the spear.
You'd gotten the spear. You kind of only just got in the spear, right?
That was like the big thing that I was up to.
Yeah. Oh, and then Kratos went to sleep, and then it was another Atreus section.
Yeah.
So you had like another quarter to a third of the game left.
Yeah, like a solid chunk. I had like a little party on Saturday, and so Sunday I was feeling quite seedy. And so I woke up and played a bunch of it, then sort of like sat on the couch and then didn't play any for a little bit and then stopped and then just decided, well, I guess I'll keep playing, and then just picked up the controller again and then continued to play.
Guess I won't do anything else.
Well, it's like I literally sat there like, I actually don't want to do anything today, so I'm just going to pick up the controller and continue doing what I was doing.
Yep. It was funny. You were sending me messages, and Discord isn't sending me phone messages at the moment ever since my computer didn't turn on properly on Sunday. And so I wasn't getting notifications, but you're sending me like screenshot of an endgame area, which is just fucking gorgeous. But you were exclusively talking to me about where you're up to in the game through jokes.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how
I did
to
that a lot.
You were like, I just killed Toby Ziegler with an axe. I'm like, I don't know how to engage with this.
I'm funny.
Or like, you showed me the picture of that beautiful area. It's like, oh man, I can't wait for photo mode. First thing I want to do when I go there, when we get it, is go there and like reiterating again. This is a spoiler zone. Get out. I'm about to.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
But you sent a message being like, oh yeah, I can't wait to take a photo with Brock's corpse. I'm like, oh my god, dude. Like that's how you started it, and I was like, I wanted to talk to you about what you thought about that story moment and the twist, and I haven't spoken to anyone about how like intense that scene was, and you come in with this bullshit. And I know because you're thinking like, oh, someone's gonna do that on Twitter, and like aren't photo modes and in game silly and stuff like that, but you just totally like just broke that. It's like, I'm gonna not engage with this too much tonight. So, what's your vibe? Just give me the vibe. Just give me your loose vibe right now, and then I'll get into some questions, and we'll bounce off and we'll bounce around.
It's fine.
It's fine. The game's fine. Story's fine. Ending's fine. What's fine?
The whole thing. God of War Ragnarok.
The whole game is fine.
It's fine. Fine to good.
So like a 7-ish.
Yeah, like a 7.5 for me. Like I played it, I got through it. I have issues with it. A lot of it was pretty good. Not all of it. I think it's messy and a little bit confused.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's got some really strong moments and some moments that are just should not be in the game at all. Or some things that maybe shouldn't be in the game at all. Like all right, let's
Like Atreus.
no, I don't even think necessarily Atreus needs to like his playable section shouldn't be in the game, but I think
Okay.
I think that's a different. I think it's a different game is the thing. Let's just talk about the story first. Let's go through all the story.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like how we felt about it.
Yeah.
I think that this is a better story than the first one.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
For me,
That's kind of where I had landed.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I think overall I enjoyed the story as a whole in this one more than the last one. And like a big part of that is that there's more than one woman in this story. You know,
you did it, Tony Santa Monica.
yeah, they did it. There's a larger cast of characters in this game that I think will allow for more interesting perspectives. And I think at times they failed to give you those perspectives in a way that really meant anything.
Right.
This game is a game realistically about 4 people, being Kratos, Atreus, Odin, and Freya. And everyone else is very secondary. Maybe larger parts than they were in the previous game if they are returning characters, but still definitely very secondary to everybody else.
Yeah.
And that is shown because a lot of the things that they do are very much side quest things, or nothing.
Companions.
Yeah, or just like bit characters. But they are serving these four larger than life characters in the God of War, the Allfather, Freya, and Atreus / Loki. I still don't know what name he prefers,
Yeah.
which is weird.
I think he is Atreus at the end of the day, and like Loki was what he was meant to be, and yeah, it's strange.
Yeah.
It's strange that like Odin wants to call him that, and like.
And he seemed pretty fine with either, but there was like a long part of that game where I couldn't figure out how much he really cared about one or the other.
Yeah, it's funny because he says at the start of the game, he's like, we should be out there finding out who I am, who Loki is.
They don't
And
really do that.
I think it's. Yeah, not really. And that's part of what I was saying at when we were talking last week about how like you find Tyr and then he doesn't know what else to do, so he goes and speaks to Freya, which is a god awful idea. And then they come back with another plan. He's like, great, let's do that. And then he's like, oh, I'm angry. And then he ends up in Jotunheim, and then he like gets angry and just goes to Asgard for some reason. Like, why would he do that? And like helps Odin for some reason, and then like he gets upset one time because he did a bad thing, and he's just like, I want to go home now. It's like, what? But yeah, I think he just is Atreus. Like,
yeah. Oh, like
And-
he's his character, but it's just like I like he also like the ending of the game is him just leaving.
can we talk about that ending
Yeah.
now that you've brought it up? So like you're in Asgard, you fight Odin. The fight's over. Odin's dead. Ragnarok comes. Freya tries to save everyone with Ingrid and his sword and stops the rock from
Freyr.
destroying the Freyr. Yeah, it's really hard to say with our accent.
Yeah.
Enough so that Angrboda can come with Fenrir and everyone can leave together, except for Freya, because he part of his initial Norse story is to fight Surtur at Ragnarok. And so he dies there, and everyone escapes. But in kind of like Atreus like bumps into Kratos to like bump him into the world tear, the realm tear. And so then you don't know what happens to Atreus. Like it looks like Atreus gets left behind because he sacrifices himself or something. And then you get that really weird shot, that like GoPro shot of Kratos running through the mist. It's like Atreus. It's like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, that was bad.
And then you wake up as Atreus and he's like hit his head or something.
Also, they broke their rule of no cuts.
Kinda, yeah. Well, because it just goes to white. It's like a hidden cut, but yeah.
They broke their rule of no cuts. It's like a time jump.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, what the fuck is the point of that?
Yeah. But outside of that, so Atreus wakes up, he's like, oh, I have to find father. And so he walks they're in this hold in Midgard, and he says hi to the Valkyries, and he walks past, and he says hi to Thrud and Sif, Elena.
Elena.
Yeah, Elena from Uncharted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And he starts saying, thanks for helping us. I hope you make a good Valkyrie one day. It's like, why are you saying goodbye? You just woke up from a concussion. And then he's like, thanks, Dad. Not Dad. Mamiya, you're like a second dad to me. Thank you so much. He's like, thanks, lad. He's like, why are you just saying goodbye to everyone?
Yeah.
And then he gets to the top of the mountain and they're like, we have to show you something. And we show you this shrine. And he's like, Dad, I have to go. All parts of my being are saying I have to go. And Kratos is like, okay. And then Atreus, like, he walks out of the cave and he turns around with his foot on the rock and he looks back at Kratos and the camera, and then he walks out of view and he's gone. And that's it.
Yeah.
For fucking no reason at all. And like, I don't necessarily mind the whole like, I have to find the giants. I have to help the giants. This is my calling.
Sure.
But why the fuck is it just like that? The only instance where, sorry, this is me not really being able to talk to anyone about this for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it was something I just immediately picked up on. I was like, I guess they just wanted to make sure everyone saw it. So it was part of the game before the credits, so people didn't like clock off. But I really wish this was like this is what you get for 100%ing the game. Maybe you get to choose between Atreus and Freya after the credits, and you bump around the overworld, and maybe you get a bit of dialogue from Atreus being like, I feel something calling to me, or I feel a responsibility, or I don't feel complete after Ragnarok, right? But you don't get any of that. He's just like, it's like Poochie in The Simpsons. He's like, I have to go now.
My people need me. Yeah.
Anyway, that whole section was nice, but forced, I felt.
Yes. Yeah, it wrapped up too quickly.
So quickly.
In a game that already had dramatic pacing issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, that part isn't good. That part didn't make any sense. I don't really understand a lot of the... I understand what the game was telling, but the characters shouldn't have believed what was happening. Right? Everyone was making decisions that weren't in line with things that had just happened.
Freya gives Atreus back the mistletoe necklace. It's like, all right, this is still the thing that killed your son. Like, this is not a thing about honor. This is not a thing about, oh, you've earned this. This is not a thing that Freya cares about. There is no way that this is not a bad thing for Freya to be holding.
Yeah.
This is not a commemorative medal. This is not what...
Yeah.
Yes.
Once again, I think they don't know how to end both of their games. I think that they get stuck, and I think I feel a little bit more vindicated in my feelings on the first game's ending, since the game sort of took my own perspective and sort of played with it a little bit as well.
In terms of like, has Kratos really changed?
Well, like in terms of the parts where he fucking visits the Norns and they mock him. They're like,
yeah, he's like, you're just gonna do everything anyway.
Yeah, he says like, oh, you killed gods and now you're sad about it.
Yeah.
And like I sat there going like, fucking yeah, right? Why did everyone? Yeah, right. So
yeah. I do think they did great exploration of all of that theming.
Yeah, I thought the Norn stuff was pretty good. I enjoyed a lot of the. I enjoy the conversation of is this prophecy, is avoiding prophecy going to cause prophecy, and does it really matter? I enjoyed all that stuff quite a lot, which is why I don't think that this is like a bad game with like a bad story.
Yeah, I'd say that's the core part of the entire ending of the game is prophecy coming true or not?
Yes. And at the end of the day, like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, whatever happens, and that is the world that you live in, which is like basically where you leave a lot of that stuff. Is that, like, you know, you might try and avoid prophecy or you might not try and avoid prophecy, but like realistically, like the things that will happen are going to be caused by you regardless. So you need to figure out what you want to do.
And that's what Atreus says to Odin at the end, where he's like, we all make choices. There is always a choice. You did this. This was not something that you had no part in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the last fifth is scrambling to try and wrap everything up. It is really, like, the game really struggles actually with trying to wrap up everybody's things to the point where they don't actually wrap everything up.
Yeah, kind of from like the point where I was playing with you the other day on Wednesday, right? Where you like go to Vanaheim to like save Freya. I feel like from that point it's all like thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to credits.
As in, is it the Heimdall part?
Yeah, that's where you go and save Freya. You have to.
I didn't know which Freya you meant you were saving because you saved both of them in Vanaheim. Sorry, brother Freya.
Yeah, brother Freya.
Yeah, and sister Freya.
Fucking hell.
That part is like, because I enjoyed the Heimdall fight for the most part because it was mechanically a little bit different, and then from
and like writing still excellent. Yeah. Like in terms of what they're saying to each other and the characterization and all of that.
I honestly think Heimdall should have been the final fight.
Right. You kill Odin and Heimdall's like, what did you do?
Kinda, yeah. Or like, you know, like I had a good thing going, kind of like his selfishness, right?
Yeah.
Which, you know, doesn't make sense lore wise because he's got the horn of Yellowhorn. But like I became a lot less interested once I killed Heimdall.
Interesting.
Because Thor, he's kind of a bit one note. Like they don't do enough with him. Heimdall is
by the time you start getting things done with him,
the game's almost done. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's dead.
The things that you do, like Heimdall, you know what his intentions are. And he's a prick, and everyone fucking hates him. And he's great to hate. He's like the bowler of this game, except not nearly enough of him. But also, like, technically, he's a very interesting character. You know, him knowing
with his mind reading capacity.
Yes. And his relationship with Odin was interesting as well because like he calls out, like, the first time you see him, and fucking Odin is like. No, and he says to Odin, you know, like, this guy's gonna try and kill you. And
he means to betray you.
Yeah, and he goes like, I know, and he goes like, but don't you want me to like get rid of him? And he goes, no, like he's not gonna kill me now. Like all that stuff is good. The Thrud stuff, I could take or leave.
Yeah, it's fine.
There are so many things happening, and so much of it feels so inconsequential by the end.
Yeah. In terms of what it means for the greater plot, I think that makes sense.
Sif's quick turn at the end because everything has to happen in the last like 20 minutes. Like
where suddenly she saved the one Midgardian who they happen to voice.
Right, yeah. And like, you know, Thor attacking and then getting killed and like, oh, he's at his moment and he's dead. There's no...
We'll say Sif's turn wasn't that quick. I just feel... I felt like they contextualized it well enough in like Niflheim, where she comes to talk to Thor and she's like, we can't keep doing this. Something has to change.
That scene was so quick though. I wanted more of them being offshoots maybe or something. Or just do that earlier.
Yeah.
Mimiya
there's a scene in Asgard where you could like put your ear to the door and listen to them talk in their bedroom. Did you do that?
I listened to all of those. There just was like 3 of them was the thing, and it's off camera. And so I'm like, I'm getting a building, but I want them to do something.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
I will say what I really appreciate about the way they did their story was that, like, you know, Atreus goes to Asgard. He kind of gets to know this sort of family unit, basically, and then he comes back. And so I did a bit of exploring with Atreus and Mimir and Kratos after that point. And Mimir starts talking to Atreus about his time in Asgard, and Mimir says something scathing about Sif and Thor, and Atreus is like, yeah, well, it seems like they've both stopped drinking. It seems like Thor maybe more recently. And Mimir's like, well, you know what? Good on them. If they're making a good effort for Thrud, then good for them. And it immediately humanizes all of the myths that we've been hearing from Mimir for the last game and a half.
Sure.
Of like Thor killed Hrimthur and all of the deception towards Odin and all of the just how all we hear about is the death and the destruction that Thor has caused. And then we get to hear this side of, like, Mimir has been telling these larger than life stories, but then we also hear him engage with this sort of more domestic sort of, like, wow, they weren't great parents to their boys, but maybe this can be enough. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed getting the second perspective of that stuff, like a more first-hand like perspective of the tales of Asgard that you hear in the first game. But I also like didn't really like believe them.
Interesting.
I feel like they didn't feel like these tales that were told didn't feel like they happened in this world.
Right. Yeah, it is almost incongruous at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, like there was and I think, like, you know, part of it is because, like, you know, Mimir, like, canonically is a good storyteller, but it's just like, this doesn't feel like a world that a lot of things has happened in. And I think part of that is the thing that we spoke about a little while ago, where I was saying, like, this game feels like a theater show, you know, and you make the set of your theater show. You don't make a background set, because theater shows don't have that much money or time or patience, and you just don't do that. And so this fell into some of those similar trappings where, like, you know, Asgard, you can walk from one side to the other in about 20 minutes. And I'm trying to figure out, like, how are there like a million, like, Asgardian gods? Like, there's like a lot of them. And, like, some of them, like, yes, and they're in different realms and stuff. And some of them are dead and all that stuff is fine. But, like, I'm just like, it's just a very small...
It's a village.
Yeah. And, like, part of it being a story and a tale is, like, this idea that, you know, if things happen at the time that they do because that is when the story is written. But, like, the idea that, you know, like, it's... Sif and Thor's kid is the same age as Atreus, and there's just there's funny coincidences because that's how that works. But it feels like no one has really been there for that long. Like, Odin feels like he's like 90 years old. He's not like an old man. Like, you know, the old mate Hannibal Lecter from the Marvel movies, who plays Odin.
And
Anthony Hopkins. So Anthony Hopkins. He feels fucking ancient. Even Thor feels like he's been around for a long time. He talks about how old he is. He talks about, like I'm 4,000 years old and I've killed twice as many people or whatever. Right? You know, like, you feel like he's knowledgeable in the various things. And I think a lot of the characters here, like, they didn't feel. And I'm not saying that they needed to copy more Marvel version of Norse mythology, but, like, they didn't really feel that intelligent or wise. Odin felt like he knew things and was hiding things. But, you know, like, Thor felt like just a 60-year-old piece of shit.
Yeah. No, it is funny.
I got
when they
age.
humanized them like that, they did ground it, like, almost too much.
Yeah.
I think that is fair.
Yeah, like, I got more age from Kratos talking more about Greece, talking more about his days in Olympus. There was
his brother and
like his brother, him talking about, you know, like, different weapons. You know, when he gets the spear in the first time and he talks about, you know, like, this is like a spear we used as a Spartan. Him saying Spartan even reminds you that, like, this is that guy. Him talking about his family, from Greece, him talking about, going to Olympus. They do some of that in 2018, but it felt like a bit more hand wavy. This felt like there was a genuine reason to bring up a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Which was good.
I really liked how they wove it in.
Yeah.
He's accepting parts of himself as well. It's part of like him being able to accept himself was the whole part of 2018 in a way. Like, at least accept more of himself.
Yeah. And weirdly, I thought Mimir had nothing to do.
Yeah. He was there. He's
the funny guy you talk to. I enjoyed his relationship with Kratos more, but Mimir didn't do anything.
That's true. And they kind of MacGuffined him as much as they could in 2018. Like you need me to show you where to go, so cut off my head. Atreus is sick, so I'm your only companion for right now. Oh, I'm figuring stuff out. Oh, we need to use your Bifrost eye. Oh, you only have one of them because Odin took the other one. Where is the other one? Like,
yeah. But he was
I feel like it would have been a bit trite, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And yeah, I guess finally, not finally, there's two more characters that we got to get through for the story, or two more groups of characters. One of them is Tyr, who...
What did you think?
What happened to him?
You were never with Tyr.
Oh, it was always Odin?
You were never, ever with Tyr.
Oh, okay.
You were always, 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 always with Odin.
Ah. Okay.
Did you not get that?
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if it was a Tyr was kidnapped at the last moment briefly.
Like you freed Tyr and then Odin took Tyr away again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you were never with Tyr. You were always with Odin's facsimile. Well, you were always with Odin. It was just Odin himself.
Right. I don't think that's very clever.
Sure.
But
how did you...
I don't think that's clever only because I'm sitting here waiting for Tyr to do something. I'm waiting
It does feel weird, doesn't it?
Tyr Tyr was giving his perspective of I'm not going to fight sort of thing, but he's...
That's because Tyr wasn't there to help you.
No, I know.
Tyr was there to spy on you.
I understand all of that.
It makes sense of all of those previous actions, but you're right. It does make the first 20 to 30 hours of the game a bit of a gigantic question mark.
And it's also kind of like,
what are we doing here?
It's kind of a cheap trick of I don't think that adds to the previous conversations you had with Tyr, in air quotations, to know
it
that.
only takes away from them, right? Because you can't believe anything that happened with Tyr.
Yeah, but also you didn't really learn a whole lot from them back then.
Nope.
So it's not like he's feeding you lies and you're going off and doing things that are like really fucked. You're not working for Odin. He's just there to sit and watch.
Yeah, he's there to understand what's going on. So it's like it recontextualizes when Atreus goes back after Heimdall is killed and he's like, apparently Heimdall's dead. You know anything about that? He knows.
Sure.
He knows firsthand. Not only does he probably know, he actually knows what happened.
He could have also just easily have known all this because he's the Allfather. There are so many avenues of him knowing that stuff because he's got.
Oh yeah, but just saying he's the Allfather, he knows, I feel is a bit cheap. This being the way that he does it makes more sense because it's not just there is more stuff you find out in the post game. There apparently is so much content in the post game, and there's only a little bit I found, but there is an Asgardian prison you can find. And it's full. The prisoners who are in there are people that Odin impersonated.
Right.
So there's a dwarf apparently who you can see in Svartalfheim, and there's a light elf, and there's the travelers with the big swords. And it's sort of about how he's been affecting things all over the place quietly.
Right.
And I think that's a much more explainable, understandable way of this is why he knows. This is why he has control. Because he's been exerting his knowledge and control and gaining it surreptitiously.
I think my immediate response to that is, I don't care.
And honestly, I think that's fair because they don't really give that to you.
No,
that's
they don't.
That's a reading that I've gotten a lot out of with as much as I've put into it, kind of a deal.
And like, like that stuff can be written really well and can be great and can be useful to the story. But like when I'm missing something from the story because I'm not going to do that side stuff, then that's no longer side stuff.
Yes.
I'm not confused. I'm confused because your lack of being able to tell me the right information, not from you putting it in a different place that I haven't been to yet. It's no. I've done the story.
Yeah, totally.
It's a long story.
Really long.
There's a lot of it that fucking didn't really need to be there.
Yeah, and when you contextualize that Tyr was never Tyr, it all of a sudden makes the sort of tail chasing that happens in the first 15 hours of the game even more circuitous, right? Because like, okay, Atreus wants to find Tyr at the start of the game. He finds those shrines and it's like, okay, let's go and find Tyr. And they're like, where is he? A burning soil, and like they try and riddle that out. And they're like, is he in Muspelheim? No, probably not, but maybe a mine. And maybe that's just a misreading of that line and he's somewhere else, or maybe he's dead, right? But it plays into, then they go to Durlin. Durlin is in Odin's pocket. He thinks he knows where Tyr is. Tyr is where Odin put Tyr.
Yeah.
And Odin has found a way to install himself in their inner circle. And then they don't know what to do because Tyr's this traumatized prisoner of war, which makes sense, which I thought was an interesting dynamic, but also it was fake. Yeah. We find out.
Yeah.
We have that Atreus section. We go to Alfheim. And Tyr is interesting to be around. Wonderfully performed.
Yeah.
An excellent presence. And we find out it's all fake. So then, like, maybe do we really care that much? Like,
it makes me care about it way less, honestly.
Yeah. That's the thing. And like the other thing is like, because we know that that's a fake, like if we play it through the second time around, I think it's going to feel even more like, why are we even doing this? Why are we even here?
Yeah. Yeah. The best part about stories that have characters that are intentionally, giving misinformation or misdirecting the protagonists, is when you can go back to them a second time and see those things happening. But you need to be able to see those quiet moments as having a purpose.
Yeah.
If you watch Knives Out, there's a moment at the beginning where
for Knives Out.
Yeah, I'm gonna spoil the Ryan Johnson's 2018 or 2019,
which is a wonderful whodunit. So I recommend you watch it.
Yeah, go watch it. It's Chris Evans. Chris Evans is the one that after a bunch of, and that's not even the whole story, but like he's the villain, right? He's the baddie of the whole story. There's a moment fairly early on where the main character, what's her name?
What is her name?
Yeah.
Marta? No.
Yeah, that's her name, but what's the actor's name?
Ana de Armas?
Yes, yeah. Ana de Armas goes and sees Chris Evans because Chris Evans picks her up after his family is like just bombarding her with questions and overloading her because she's inherited everything and all this stuff, right?
And he gets the info out of her because he wants to listen, but also he kind of bribes it out of her.
Yeah, well, like he says, like, hey, like get in, let's go for a drive. He's the outcast of the family. The family doesn't like him either. He doesn't like the family, and so
but he does the thing with the vomiting thing where he's like, I know you can't lie. Here's a bucket. Tell me the truth.
Yes, but he also, there's the moment where like they sit in a diner and they eat, and she gives him information, and it looks like a genuine scene where he's acting, like we're both outcasts from our family. I understand it, all this stuff, and she's confiding in him, and you watch it again, and you can see moments where he's actually getting information. He's finding out stuff from this moment of openness between the two that he then does use later. And she feeds him more information, which then happens again later on, and there's more like, oh my god, like the killer and all this stuff. Like what the fuck is happening? How was you always step ahead? I never once felt like there was a mole, right? I never once felt like, oh, like how do they know all this? You know,
Yeah.
you know,
He was just waiting.
yeah, but
He was just waiting the whole time.
but not for any genuine purpose. It didn't feel like.
Just because he's a bastard.
Yeah, and like that's not fun.
No.
That's not smart. The final characters I just wanted to talk to was Brock and Sindri. They have more to do in this game.
Yeah.
Which you know, I enjoyed Sindri's relationship with Atreus.
I enjoyed Brock's moment in Svartalfheim with the forge.
Yeah, that part was cool. And then Brock dies. And I was like, oh no. Okay.
What, you weren't sad?
Oh, sure. Brock was funny.
Yeah, well, but like Atreus says to someone, like he's like their uncle. He's the first other character you meet who you don't fight in the first game.
No, but me as the uncle. Brock was never. Brock is the comic relief.
I appreciate the both of them. I don't just think he's there for a joke.
Like I appreciate it, and I appreciate his bluntness. You know, he was the one that found out fucking Tyr was Odin, but like, but that was like the only thing he like really like did. You know, he went to the forge with Kratos, and that moment is interesting because you learn that he's actually been resurrected, and that's interesting. But like, they don't do anything with that really.
Yeah, I don't think it's about that though at that point. Like for me, it was like I just cared about the characters by that point, and so all of these are interesting details to me. Like it's just kind of character soup, and I want to drink it all up. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Character soup, and in soup, every ingredient has a purpose, and Brock's purpose was to die because he was the least important of the group.
Yeah, I guess so.
And that was all I saw. It was like, oh, like we got to have a death, we got to make everyone sad. Fuck, Freya's too important. Freya's brother's got to sacrifice at the end. Kratos can't die because it's his game. Atreus has still got a whole bunch of shit to do. Tyr is, well, not actually Tyr. And Sindri has to do the stuff at the end. So, well, I guess it's Brock. Mimia's still ahead.
Okay.
I just, like...
I could see that. I could see how you could see the composite parts and how it boils down. That makes sense.
Yeah. He's square peg and square hole, you know? He's the Phil Coulson of the Avengers movie, right? You know, you can't kill any of the Avengers in the first Avengers movie. We've got to fucking sign up for 6 more.
Yeah.
We couldn't kill any of the Avengers in Age of Ultron, so we killed Quicksilver because he's only in that movie.
Yeah. Okay.
It was too obvious.
Okay. How did you feel about how they characterized Sindri afterwards?
It was okay. I thought it was all right. I wanted a bit more like not even specifically reconciliation, but I wanted a bit more exploration of how Sindri actually felt about a lot of it, because he leaves, and then you visit him and he tells you to fuck off, and then he comes back at the end, not with all the dwarves because he doesn't want any more dwarves to die, which is fine. But then
he just breaks open the wall.
Yeah,
which is like you could just do that.
Yeah, like he didn't do anything after Brock died. He was a key to a door, but he didn't like actually like act really. He didn't.
He did. That's false.
Like as in like his character didn't do a thing.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah. Sorry, not as in his performance.
Not as in the actor wasn't acting.
No. As in his character didn't do an action.
Yeah, but he broke the wall.
That isn't a Sindri specific thing that could have been done.
Yeah, it did feel a bit like, oh, this wall, there's a flaw that only one person knows, and it turns out that one person didn't even know it, and then Sindri just does it. Yeah. That did feel really weird. Like I can't really reconcile that anywhere.
They had no idea what to do with the cast of characters they had by the end of the game.
Yeah.
And that is a glaring issue for me, is that this is a game so much about these characters and about their relationships to things like fate and their relationships to things like prophecy and their relationships to things like family. And they gave them no food to feed on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of this game's issue is that there are too many characters. Like when you look at like an Uncharted story or something like that, it's a pretty close group at the end of the day. Like even when you bring in the villains. But this you've got, like you said, you've got the like 7 to 8 people who hang out at the hideout, who hang out in Sindri's house by the end of the game. And then you've got like 5 people in Asgard, and then a bunch of others as well. Like you've got the Valkyrie Queen who has a bit more to do towards the end. You've got all of Brother Freya's troop.
You've got the giant
Just so
lady.
Yeah, you got Angrboda.
We go back to
Like-
we go back to Faye.
Yeah,
There's like a lot of characters in this.
yeah, totally. And I think that's part of the issue, because they do all have to have their moments at the end, and they do all have some moments, but it does feel a bit weird, and it does feel a bit rushed. Like the spectacle of the final mission is quite fun, and like the visuals are amazing. And I like the way how they kind of twist some of what you see prophesied. Like the boats of the armies of hell are meant to come, and they do come, and they immediately get fucked. And it's like, well, I guess that might have been a part of the prophecy. We didn't know because it was vague, because it's prophecy. Like that's interesting, but yeah, it did feel a bit like I don't know what we're doing or what's about to happen or what's gonna why and what and who and why. Yeah,
And like I think in a game of the length of it is, I actually don't think that's too many characters, but I think it is poor, maybe not planning, but they needed to work out who was doing what and when, and they needed to start doing things fucking earlier. Things need to just happen. Like, okay, Tyr Odin's like revelation, that reveal should have happened earlier.
yeah, that would have.
Tyr's not doing anything for too much.
No,
of that
he's
game.
pretty useless.
And I'm sitting here going like, I want Tyr to do something for
Yeah.
all of the fucking game, only to find out it's not actually him. And I'm sitting here like, then like, what am I waiting for? Like, why are you making him? You know, like, make him a prick that fucks off. Make him be aloof. Make him not so openly nice. You know, he cooks for them and stuff, and all that stuff is interesting for a character that is going to do something, right? He doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah.
They needed, so then don't have him for half of the game.
The other thing is, like, even when he kills Brock, it's to like get the mask.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't even leave with it because they throw the spear and it catches the mask before he can go. So like,
The whole point
why
of
did
it
he even
was
reveal
not-
himself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not very good.
Also, like, what the fuck is the mask? Who the hell? Who cares about this mask? What the?
Although
I don't care about this mask.
I enjoy the mask because it, you know, what it symbolizes is like, you know, like forever knowledge, right? You can't know what that is. No,
Yeah, I just found it like,
you don't get that sequence of them putting it on because then they would know and then they would show it, which you can't because it's
I
an
know,
impossible
but like
object.
we never even heard about it in the previous games. Like, it was just a thing that Odin brought out of nowhere. It was like, we need a thing for Atreus to do while he's here. Here's a mask
Yeah, I guess like it
that
being
we've never ever heard of.
sure. I think that I didn't hate that as much, only because I'm like, yeah, fuck it, whatever. That's fine. That's a thing.
It's funny the different things that we do and don't like allow for.
Yeah, like I think because like the like I don't care about those more tangible things as much. I specifically only care about what makes the characters do things that are nice to, or like that are interesting to watch.
Yeah.
So like the actual mask is not a thing I care about. I care about more about how the characters react to that mask.
Yeah, totally. So I have one final part that I would love to discuss briefly. So Atreus, he walks off. And did you do the thing where when you finally walk out of the cave, you look to see where Atreus went, and it's just like fucking rocks?
Yeah, it's like a path that is definitely too big for Kratos. I'm like, okay, all right.
But also, like, for me, it didn't even look like a path. It was just like they just sent him off.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you just walk back down through the hole? You dingus. Why'd you have to walk to the top of the mountain?
Exit stage left.
Yeah. Anyway, after Atreus walks off, Kratos walks around to the back of the shrine? Because it's Faye and Kratos' shrine, isn't it?
Uh,
I'm pretty sure that
it's
first
a
shrine they
shrine.
look at together is Faye's, and it's about how Faye kind of rejects what was prophesized for them.
Right.
And then on the back of it is Kratos' shrine. And this is the one, and he looks at this after Atreus is gone. And this is sort of the like, this is Kratos' story. We saw Atreus's in Jotunheim. This one is Kratos's. It shows you Greece. It shows you what he did in the Northlands. And then in the future, from when he observes it, it shows him being revered by people. It shows him being the kind of god that Odin teased him for never being. And Freya and Mimir are there, and they say, "What did you see?" He's like, "I saw a possibility that I never considered." And that's interesting. And he's done all of this, and maybe he's ready to not work for himself anymore. He's ready to make the land a safer place and to tie off loose ends and to make things better for the people he cares about and the people that they care for. It's kind of a bit, feels a little sudden, like a small jump. But I feel like they're working towards that throughout the game. I'm not too annoyed with that. But
Sure.
what I am annoyed with is the whole, you get to the end of the game and it's this war camp and then Lunda makes you this new armor, the Fatebreaker armor. That's what it's called. And it's the red trim of the original set. I'm like, yes, fuck, you gave me the original armor that's so good, but
Yeah,
it's like end game armor. That's great.
Yeah, it's finally I can get out of this like big plate armor that looks bad, and I can see his like his cool tattoos
His beard clip
and
into it.
yeah, yes, and his beard clips into it every minute.
So like awesome, great. And it's all about changing fate. He doesn't die at the end of the game like we thought he would, and this happens and this doesn't happen, and this part of the prophecy happens and this doesn't happen. And then it gets to the thing where it's like, we will make our own fate. Fate only binds you if you let it, he says at some point. Like, and so I feel like the resolution of that kind of thread is fate doesn't have to have any meaning for us. It doesn't have to hold us. We don't have to pay attention to it. It doesn't have to matter. And then the end of the game is him seeing his fate. And that kind of determines everything you do in the rationale for why he would be doing the post game, why he would still be helping out the realms, why he would be going on to do things like the Berserkers. He says it is not safe to let malevolent spirits wander the realms. He's right. He's never cared about that before.
Yeah,
he's accepted parts. He's wanted parts of Atreus and Faye to instill part of his rationale. Now I get that, and he mentions that, and he wants that.
yes.
But to think that he would only consider being this sort of god after seeing it on the shrine, on the back of the shrine that is for his wife, that shows her rejecting the fates after the culmination of them defeating fate and ignoring fate and going against fate, he then follows it. He's then inspired by it. It feels so incongruous to me.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so like the gears don't turn. They lock up against each other with that one. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Why couldn't he just...
It's no more killing, snaps neck.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that not being neat. I enjoyed him being challenged on that regard.
Yeah, he should have not opened the shrine.
Yeah, or maybe he should have only opened like one half. He saw the past, he saw the present.
Sure.
And maybe he didn't want to see the future.
Yeah.
And closed it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It does not track.
Yeah.
And
I think it's an interesting place to take him as a character.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like I think like maybe what they could have done is they could have had it open via the fucking wind, and so the camera sees it, but Kratos is already
you see it, but he doesn't, because it doesn't matter.
Or you don't see it because you don't get to know what comes next, because that's the point. Either or, but yeah, or he rips it off his hinges and he just piffs it. It's... I don't know if they get it.
Yeah. And I think they did for the ending. I thought it was interesting how they did it towards the ending. And like, they keep coming back to the prophecy, and it's all about how they deal with the prophecy. It funnels in through this theme. And I thought they did enough with that I was enjoying what they did with it. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Even if it's a bit loose, even if some of it isn't neat, I'm like, that's interesting. And then this last step is just like,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. I'm very excited to get to the post game stuff. There's apparently just a bunch of cool stuff in there. Jeremy, I think there's a quest that you should do. That there's very little that I've experienced, but there is a quest you should do. You should go to the Raven Tree in Niflheim.
Okay.
There is a quest there, and I wonder what you would think of it. I think anyone who has finished this game who hasn't done so should go to the Raven Tree and listen to your companions. They'll say something. There's something there, and experience that. But like, yeah, I am excited to get to that in-game stuff and listen to more of their discussions and see and like go to Brock's funeral and stuff like that. I still haven't done that, but yeah, it is a messy game. This is where I landed on it, where I said it's a well-told story, rather it's a good story told poorly. Like it's a better story.
Yeah. It is the for me it's the opposite of the first God of War. Which is a not a great story told well. Whereas this is like a better story told worse.
Yeah, which is funny because I came in with that in our first impression, and you said it was the same. Where you said it was a bad story told. You said it was different. You said it was a fine story told really badly.
For the second one.
Yeah, actually, I can't remember what you said. You disagreed with how I put it, but we're agreeing now, which is funny because you were at the start and now you're at the end, and yeah.
Yeah, it's... There are so many things that have like there's a lot of really cool moments which we haven't touched on that much, but I think the Serta moment I think is pretty neat. Like when you meet him, I think is interesting. Really great Jeff Bridges impression from the actor who played Serta. A lot of the fucking I enjoyed enough going to the different realms with the Norse gods as Atreus, but actually playing as Atreus I found really poor. It
was fine.
It was like, like the part with Ellie in the first Last of Us is good because it's not super long. And then it's
also not very different.
It's not very different. This is different enough and not as good and happens over and over again that every time it happens, I'm like, fucking maybe I just stop for a little bit.
There's like hours of it.
Yeah. There's... like I said last time, I'm just going to say it again, all of the armor stats and everything, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's not enjoyable to really engage with that system in any meaningful way.
Yeah, I only really did enjoy or find that stuff any useful when I was doing the Berserkers, when I was doing that sort of endgame stuff.
Like, I'm enjoying the skills tree stuff. I think that's fine. I enjoy working on a specific skill over and over again and upgrading it. I think that's good and fine. But the actual, all of the various stats and armors and amulets and they give you 20 different fucking tabs to go down to see like which stat you want to look at the most. I'm like,
oh, the menus are not good.
Not good. So many upgrade materials, so many chests, bad puzzles, like some genuinely really poor puzzles of like, hey, well, you got to get over here and throw the spear. I'm like, fucking no. Like, just let me jam the spear in the wall. Like, don't make me walk over there just so I can walk back. Like,
wouldn't it be cool if there was like an animation where you had to like, where Kratos jumped forward and embedded the spear as part of the jump and then push forward from that? That would have been fun.
That would be fun. I think the addition of the spear as gameplay I think is interesting enough. It never felt quite as good as the axe or the blades for me, so I didn't.
Definitely.
It was always the third option.
It gets better. Like, for me, the spear found its place when I unlocked the hold R2 ability, which siphons their element.
Right.
And so then you can make the spear a poison spear or a Bifrost spear. And that's really cool. That's cool. Sick.
Yeah.
But yeah, before that, I was a bit like, not sure what to do with it. The range doesn't feel that great. Again, that only feels good once you upgrade it. Yeah. It was cool though.
Yeah, it was neat. Like thematic wise, visually, it's all cool. Some
Yep.
some fun shortcut abilities with the spear as well.
And it's interesting the motivation behind it is all like, this is Kratos' weapon that he makes. All of his other weapons have been bestowed upon him.
Yeah. Yeah. Thought the face actions were bad.
Yeah, you really didn't like them, hey.
She didn't, like, there was, like, they don't.
She never really emoted, did
She never emoted
She was
at
a
all.
very stoic person.
There is so much camera on her face. And whether it's like the model of her face or the fact that they didn't record performance capture.
Jeremy, no, she was in there.
Okay, visual face performance capture. She might have been acting, but she might not have had the dots on her face.
I think she did. She put a picture up on Twitter.
Well,
She was in there She was in there.
Maybe
But the thing that gets me
maybe
is
Deborah Ann
that
Wall isn't really that good an actor.
I think it's the direction.
Yeah.
I think they directed her to be a stoic, someone who would be the partner of Kratos, right? We know she's holding secrets at this point in their life, and she's just stoic. And you're right. I read it as that was the direction.
Maybe. There's a lot of moments when no one emotes. So I don't know if it's just that or I don't know. There's a lot of things that are I think they should have reconsidered with this game, and I think honestly the biggest one for me was the no cuts. I think it didn't add to the game at all, and it just ruined the pacing of it. And the moment they decided to do a split story and then committed to that of Atreus leaving a bunch, they needed to realize that they couldn't do both of those and make them both good. It started off weird the moment Atreus leaves, and then it only got worse from there. Like they should have just decided to have bespoke cutscenes. The amount of camera running up to another character and then whipping back around while this camera's on this weird never gonna sit still angle. It does my fucking head in. We've seen that before. And we've seen that before in things like Death Stranding and Metal Gear Solid 5. And it worked great there because those camera shots were so fucking considered. But
they also had cuts.
They also had cuts. It
wasn't a wanna.
No. And, honestly, you're not Kojima. You're not making you're not making those games.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a harder challenge, and when it fails, it is more obvious.
Sure.
And I think they overall passed that in the first game. I think that was a pass.
Yeah, I found the single cut to be as effective for me in this game as it was in the first, and that is I hardly noticed it.
Right.
Honestly, it does very little for me in this game.
Yeah, which is fair.
It's just there. As soon as I die and I have to respawn, that breaks that for me. As soon as I go into the Mystic Gateways and a big white flash, let alone the ring thing and the loading screens and all of that, it doesn't matter. As soon as I go through the white flash, and it was the same in 2018, it was the exact same. They used them dozens, hundreds of times in the game. It's a cut. I know that.
I think it worked better in 2018 because they had that big round room. They had that giant round room that you would
Tyr's temple.
Yeah, and you'd walk through the door. And
that's true, but you still had the Mystic Gateways to bounce around inside the realms.
Yeah, I know.
And those moments, it's the same thing for me. So yeah, I still think it's a good game. I think anyone who enjoyed the first one should definitely play this one as well.
At the risk of jumping ahead, is it on your Game of the Year list at all?
Is it on it?
Yeah.
Yes.
But is it a genuine contender for Game of the Year for you?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I thought it might have been earlier. This sits in a similar place to God of War 1. It's almost identical to God of War 1 for me with where it sits, even though it does different things and I enjoy it differently. But I think it's going to do that same thing. I remember earlier this year, I was doing some capture for 2018 on the PS5. And I pick it up and I play it. every time I go back to that game, I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, this game feels great to play. This game is like great combat, and I enjoy playing it, and I really like it. But I think the length of the game means that I'm pretty done with the game by the time I get to the end.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just dismiss it from my brain. And so then every time I come back, I'm like, oh yeah, this has got such a good flow, and the runic attacks, and I can use the spear for this and unarmed to get this stuff. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then I just forget about it again. So I think, I'm a few weeks away removed from this, in a way, and it is drastically fading into the background for me, in a similar way to the first one did. I think Elden Ring is more masterfully designed in some ways.
Sure.
It pulls many things off more gracefully than Ragnarok does. I think I maybe it's hard to say. Hard to say whether I enjoyed Ragnarok or Elden Ring more. They're very different. Like, I like story, single player, narrative focused games. That's just fun. I like that.
Yes, so do I. But I didn't like. I was
love this.
I was wanting this to be done far earlier than when it was done.
Yeah, it's long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be at the top there, but I don't think it's gonna win.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be on mine.
I just don't think it's as literally good, like as literally high quality as Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. I'd say that's it for God of War, but seeing as we're speaking about it, Jeremy, are you gonna beat Elden Ring before the end of the year?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to fit time in for that one.
It is tricky. Like, part of the reason why I'm playing Sifu at the moment is I wanted to talk about it before the end of the year.
There's a handful of games that I want to get to, I think, before I get through more Elden Ring. Yeah. Like, I feel comfortable with my knowledge of Elden Ring, knowing where it's going to be. It's not like I'm like still in the first castle and I don't really understand what the game is. Like, I get that game. And I've seen a lot of it since as well. I've seen every boss fight in the game. I've watched tons of videos on it.
Right.
So like, it's not like I'm saving myself
completely blind.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I think I would rather get through like a Norco. I'd rather get through, Frog Detective 3. I haven't had a chance yet.
Yeah.
There's a handful of titles that I got to throw some time into. Before I finish Elden Ring. The Elden Ring.
Yeah. Well, everybody, that's going to do it for us. Thank you for listening. I think that's it for God of War. I am still going to play it with Sam so we can enjoy the story together, and I'm very much looking forward to that. It's a very different mindset for me when I'm playing something to record it or to always make sure I'm, if I'm recording, then it's just a different mindset. So I absorb the story very differently. So I'm looking forward to doing that solo or with Sam, not for work. But yeah, that's going to be it for us for God of War Ragnarok. Thank you so much for listening.